this is what why I love the free world and democracy. Basically, we have laws that encourages people to be creative and invent stuff that will advance humanity through business. So that if I can create something that the government will say, yep, this is a brand new invention and you own this right, you own this patent. Now I can make money by selling the license to this patent, somebody else wants to use it, or I can just prevent people from using it. Welcome to the Break Free Podcast. My name is David Mancella. In this podcast, we want to shine the light to business owners and entrepreneurs on how to make their life better, reach their goals, and increase their profits exponentially. I had the privilege of meeting Katherine Rubino a couple of months ago, and what she has to offer to the world is amazing, and it's actually eye-opening for me, despite that I knew what she was talking about. I had never really applied it for my own business. And I'm actually talking about intellectual property. So, Katie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. So thank you, Katie, for the audience. Can you give me your full name? Where do you live? And what do you do for a living?
Sure. Okay. My full name is Katherine Ann Rubino, and I live here in Boston, Massachusetts. And what I do is I work as an intellectual property attorney, and really what that means is that I really help companies increase their value through their intellectual property. So looking at ways we can create IP strategies that are sort of in alignment with what they want to do with their business and seek to monetize the intellectual property in a way that helps them get a real return on investment for it.
That's wonderful. I run a high-end software consulting firm. We build software applications for other businesses. And we've been doing that for a long time, almost 18 years. We started in 2005. And early on in my career, I was approached by well-funded startups. And one of the things that they were looking for is to get patents or get, any kind of proof that their processes were unique, so that they could actually increase the valuation of their company. I didn't pay much attention because that was just a part of my services that I didn't take care of. We actually built intellectual property by automating the processes in doing software, custom software solutions. But we never looked at the legal aspect of it until I actually met you. And I realized the incredible value that I was missing by just ignoring that. Imagine that, and I've been in business for 18 years. Let's go more into details on how can business owners leverage and increase their net worth, their value through intellectual property?
Sure. So it really depends on what the business is looking to do. So if, let's say, you're a high growth startup that's looking to get maybe some Series A fundraising, right? Well, since 2011 to, I believe, 2021, 70% of all VC funding went to companies and startups that had patents. So that right there tells you if you want to go, close a Series A, you're going to need some patents, and you're going to need to be able to talk to investors about those patents and what those patents do. Whereas, let's say maybe you're a very high growth startup, maybe later on you want to go public, right? Well, if you go public, companies at valuation for initial IPO offerings, they usually get on average about a 16.2% higher valuation of their overall business if they have patents than if they don't. So if you look at probably one of the greatest examples of this is the company LinkedIn. Before LinkedIn went public, about 2 years before that, they had 0 patents in their portfolio. Over 2 years leading up to their IPO, they slowly crafted a portfolio of around 300 patents. And 300, yeah.
Whoa.
They had such a tremendous increase in their share price at initial public offering from these 300 patents. Now, some of these patents they had acquired through purchasing other companies, but still, they decided to really lean into that value add, and they really extracted a lot of value from that.
That is incredible, especially on the software field, what I operate on. How can people think about even thinking about that they might have a case where they could get awarded a patent? Like, what is the first steps towards even thinking about that, right?
So this is a great question, because a lot of times people come to me and they're like, well, I have this great idea, but I haven't built it out yet. I don't even know if it's going to work. This is just what I'm thinking about. And so what I like to tell them is not to worry, because the bar to patentability is very low. You don't need to create your product to get a patent on it. You don't need to ever create it. You don't need to have a prototype. You don't even need to show it works. Really, the only thing the US Patent Office has said you cannot get a patent on is a time machine. So essentially anything else, really is patentable. And I think it's important to tell people too, a lot of times too, part of the strategy is also not only patenting what you're doing right now today. Patents will be good for a term of 20 years. So we also want to try and capture as much forward-leaning technology and advancements to the tech that we can, because if we know, for example, right now everybody's excited about Chat GPT and blockchain and all these really cutting-edge new technologies. So I always tell people, well, let's just write some of that into this patent, because if the patent's going to be good for 20 years, we don't know exactly where the technology is going to land. But if we have support for that over time, we're just going to exponentially increase the value of that patent down the road too.
That's fantastic. Now, I remember going to some of your webinars that you guys were making, and I heard that a patent could actually increase somebody's business for at least $500,000, right? Can you expand on that?
Oh, sure. Okay, yes. So what that's talking about is there are some newer programs that have come out in the past 3 years to use companies' patent portfolios for debt-based financing. So this comes into play a lot of times with startups that are in between a Series A and B, and maybe they need some money to expand, kind of grow quicker, scale up, but they don't want to take on more traditional VC funding because it's going to dilute ownership in the company. And maybe they've already diluted that enough. So what it is basically, there's different banks and different programs that do this, but you can leverage your patent portfolio as collateral to then get a debt-based note to expand your business through that funding. And so one example of this we worked on last year, we were working with this high growth HR tech company. And so we wrote them about 40 patents over the span of 12 months. And they spoke to some financiers who do these debt-based notes. And they got their 40 patents valued at a price of about $500 million.
$500 million.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And, they got a debt-based note at half the value of that portfolio, and they were able to use that to really kind of grow and scale and buy other companies in the HR tech space.
So they basically went out and got loans for about $250 million just based on their patents.
That's right.
Right. Now, let's get simpler, because my mind is just blowing. And this is the stuff that I didn't know. As a technologist and as a business owner, I feel like almost like ashamed that I didn't know how much value I could add to my own business or my clients' businesses. What is really a patent? How would you describe a patent?
Oh, okay. Well, the thing to remember is that a patent can serve a lot of different purposes. So a lot of times we all think about patents as protecting my invention, right? I created this, I want to protect this and block others. That's one small piece of it, but really the other important piece of a patent is that it creates liability for others, because if somebody else is practicing your patent, by having that patent, you can stop them from doing that and force them to either take a license from you or sell your patent outright. So it's sort of this dual role where it's protecting what you're creating, but we're also creating liabilities for others in the marketplace too.
So I guess this is what why I love the free world and democracy. Basically, we have laws that encourages people to be creative and invent stuff that will advance humanity through business. So that if I can create something that the government will say, yep, this is a brand new invention and you own this right, you own this patent. Now I can make money by selling the license to this patent, somebody else wants to use it, or I can just prevent people from using it. That's why, I guess that's why they just give you 20 years, because it wouldn't be fair, right?
Exactly, yes. The original intent behind the patent system, it was written into the Constitution, and it's written in there to help advance science and technology, because by granting different entities patents, we're, incentivizing research and we're protecting innovation, but we're also creating an asset that a business can go monetize in the free market as well.
Incredible. Now, I know, I have gone to several law firms before on behalf of my clients to see if they could actually patent some of their processes or some of their inventions, and they never guaranteed a success rate. And I believe with you guys, you have created a process where your success rate for getting the patent awarded is very high. Can you talk about that?
Oh, sure, yes. So what it is, basically, we have a 99.4%. Don't sue me if that's off a little. But we have this high rate of allowance. So we have this 99% rate of allowance on all the patents that we file at the patent office.
Wow.
And what that basically means is when you file a patent, there's two avenues the patent can go down. The patent, it will get examined by a patent examiner, and it can get either approved, meaning the patent examiner says, yes, you can go ahead and be granted this patent on this invention, or they can reject it and you have to argue. And then eventually some patent firms, they just kind of give up. They what we call abandon the patent. Mm-hmm. So what we try to do is to never abandon patent applications, because this is already, by the time we filed a patent with a client, we're already, a few months down the road. The client's already invested some money to go after this application. So really the worst thing we could do is just give up and be like, oh, well, the office rejected it. We're not going to get you this patent. What we try to do is really figure out, okay, exactly how are they rejecting it, on what grounds, and how are we going to get around this? So we kind of take a very strategic approach in the way we write these patents to kind of emphasize what is it that you're doing differently than what others are doing already in this space, so that we have some areas we built into that patent to go argue and get around what the examiner is trying to assert against us there.
That's amazing. So I guess you were able to accomplish this high success rate because of your incredible experience, right?
That's right, yes. And my partner, Keegan, who is the founder of the firm, he's an ex-Marine. So really, winning is just in his DNA. So we just never really give up here. Well,
if you're a Marine and you lose, that means you die. So you better win, right? Yeah, no, Keegan is an amazing fellow. I had the privilege to know him. He's the same business class as I am with Dan Sullivan. That's why I know about you guys. And for me, it's just mind blowing. That's why I asked you to make this podcast, because, my audience is business owners that want to grow their companies. And what a beautiful way to add massive value by just figuring out what is that you do uniquely. And, you can just get your valuation exponentially growing. Like what you're telling me about this, the HR company that they were able to secure $250 million just because of their patents is just mind-blowing, right?
Right. And the interesting thing there too is that some of those 40 patents they got this valuation on, not all of those were approved at the time. So some of them were still pending at the patent office, and we were still arguing them and everything. So, it's important to realize too, you don't need to have all, issued patents to be able to do some of this debt-based financing.
That's fantastic. So I guess you can patent, for example, if I'm Disney, I can patent Mickey Mouse, right?
You can't exactly patent just a character. There are some rules on that. Mm-hmm. So but if let's say you have unique ways of digitizing Mickey Mouse or interacting with Mickey Mouse, or last year everybody was turning Disney characters into NFTs. All of that is definitely patentable. But for, a character itself, if let's say this is like marketing material, some sort of logo, right? The design of Mickey Mouse you're putting on your marketing materials, that would be protectable with what we call trademarks. And that protects names, branding, logos around that. And usually trademarks and patents, they all go together. So it's part of sort of the overall intellectual property of the business. It's very common that someone's IP portfolio, business's IP portfolio, will consist of numerous pieces of different types of intellectual property.
So trademarks, what's the difference between trademarks and copyrights?
Yes, that's a great question. So trademarks, that protects your branding, right? So if your company name or logo, so if you think about a company like Nike, their check mark, right? That's on every product, that's all protected with a trademark. And their name, Nike, that's a trademark, separate trademark. A copyright, what that does is protect more sort of artistic works. So once we have a work in what's called a fixed medium, that's when you can apply for a copyright. This would be things like books, music, manuscripts, photographs, even this podcast recording, right? Mm-hmm. All of that is protected with copyrights. And what that does is it prevents plagiarism, so that the way in which you're expressing the content and you have the content in this fixed medium, somebody can't just come in and plagiarize the work there. Right.
That's fantastic. Now, for getting a copyright or a trademark is not the same process, right? It must be a little bit simpler.
That's right. Yeah. Trademarks are pretty straightforward. They usually, you file your application, you hear something back, and they usually issue within about 6 to 8 months or so. It's pretty quick. Copyrights are even faster. You basically file your copyright at the Copyright Office, and then the registration comes through in about 2 weeks or so.
That's amazing. How long does it take them for a patent to get processed and approved?
Yes, that's a great question. So if you file a patent, normally it might take anywhere from 3 to 5 years to get it through. So this was kind of a problem for a lot of high growth companies, where it's going to take 5 years for me to be able to get that patent and be able to extract the value. If you're a high growth startup, that's not a great time frame to work with. So in 2013, the US patent system underwent this major legal transformation. And one of the things in this new legal system of our patent system here was they created this fast track or track 1 program. And what it is basically they only allow 15,000 patent applications to be filed on this program each year, but you basically file the patent, and you get a determination of patentability within 12 months from filing. So what that means is that you can have that issued patent in hand in about 1 year from when you file it. So that's much quicker.
That's amazing.
And it's so amazing. And what we found too, we file probably like maybe 3% of those 15,000 each year, those track ones, because we really tell all of our clients this is like really a good idea. And what we found too, the other advantage of it is that if you file that patent under that track 1 program, that means a patent examiner is going to pick up and start reviewing your case in about 3 to 6 months. Whereas if you don't expedite it, could be 3 to 6 years before they pick it up.
Right.
And that means they're going to have 3 to 6 years more knowledge and more other research and patents that have come out that they can use against you to reject your patent.
Yeah.
So by doing this accelerated program, we get patents through quicker, but we also get them through with less rounds of argument because there's just less stuff that the patent examiner knows about and that they can use to reject the patent with.
That is incredible. Like I said, throughout the years, almost 18 years of writing software for other successful businesses, you guys have been the fastest, most reliable service for patents that I found. And I'm so happy that I could actually now help spread the word. Katie, I love to keep talking to you, but I want to respect your time. And I want to make sure my audience, as soon as they listen to this podcast, they can go and find you. So they can get their patents going. If they like to find you, where can they go?
Oh, sure. Yes, they can go to our firm's website. It's just caldwellip.com. And all of our contact information is on there. And we also have just a pop-up page where they can submit a little bit of information about themselves with their name and their company, and then we'll reach out and set up a call and we can help advise them on what's going to really make sense for them.
Fantastic. Katie, thank you so much for your time. For the audience, if you don't get a patent, if you're a business owner, I bet you have at least 1 or 2 patents which could give you instantly almost $1 million in net worth valuation. So why wouldn't you do it? Even if you just want to sell your business eventually, having patents will actually make your business worth a lot more. So it's almost like applying for free money, isn't it? So guys, please, ladies, you run your own business. Talk to Katie, please, or Katie's team. Investigate what your case is, and I'm pretty sure they could find a patent in your business and increase your company value exponentially. Katie, thank you so much for your time. God bless. And I guess I'll see you in the next podcast event. Have a wonderful...
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun.
Blessings. Cheers.
That's all for today's episode of the Break Free Podcast. Head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Starting your own business can be tough, but it doesn't have to be. Visit davidmansilla.com to pick up a copy of the #1 international best-selling book, Breaking Out of Corporate Jail. Expand what you consider to be possible and reach your full potential. And join us on the next episode.